Peace, peace. Greetings to you all. It's your brother Naheem, BKA Lord Abbott, aka Mr. Just the Facts. We are going to do a pop-up today based on a conversation that we were having about immigration, class-based and race-based politics, and class-based and race-based coalitions. So for those of you who are just coming in, make sure you hit the like button, share this out to the family. Let people know that we are having a conversation today. We're going to touch on some other things as well. We want to touch on the Civil Rights Act and how it's being misused, if you will, or misinterpreted to mean discrimination when we say we're looking for specifics, et cetera, et cetera. The bros are going to get it in. I see everybody in the chat. Shout out Sister Brianna. Shout out Moni Love. Shout out Lionel Riley. Peace to the fam. Let me see. So we're going to start this off by playing a clip from Barbara Jordan, who was on the commission on immigration reform, because what she has to say here is very, very powerful in that regard. And we need to get back to this type of politics. Shout out Riri to the BTP mod. Shout out Ronice M, KGB, Teddy, peace, fam. All right, let's get this thing going. Yeah, hit play, Brother Logic.
The Congress assigned to us, but we have reached certain conclusions, and I will sum up those recommendations to you. We have concluded that a properly regulated legal immigration system is in the national interest. We support the basic framework of current policy. I said properly regulated, and I mean that. Immigration is not a right guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution to everyone anywhere in the world who thinks they want to come to the United States. Immigration is a privilege. It is a privilege granted by the people of the United States to those we choose to admit.
Powerful.
As you may have heard.
Yeah, so I wanted to put that little piece out there, right? She said something. If none of y'all who are in the chat or watching the live have heard of Senator Barbara Jordan, please research her and check her out, family. Dynamic, one of the most powerful legislators we've ever had, right? So this one, immigration was a big issue in the 90s, right? When the Democrats had control of the presidency, they had majorities, right? And they were talking about their position on it. And if you listen to the speech in its entirety, she really goes in depth on the impact immigration has on the most vulnerable citizens in America. And we know who those citizens are, right? And what the point that she really highlighted is how immigration is a privilege and not a right.
That's
and if
right.
we look at the contemporary narrative of immigration today, or the modern idea of immigration today, is that whoever wants to come here, we should let them come here, even if they're, no matter what their situation is back home, without even good vetting, without them going through the proper channels and the proper procedures to be admitted into the country. We should just let them in. Biden right now is talking about extended rights for undocumented workers and they're even calling them undocumented citizens. They then gave them citizenship before they even had the documentation. So there's no oath of allegiance. So when you get naturalized in this country, right, There's a process that you have to go through. There's documentation that you get. You have to sever all of the political ties that bind you to your country of origin, and you have to make an oath of allegiance to the United States of America, right? So they want to give rights to people who have not even done that. They want to give privileges that are solely for American citizens to folks whose allegiance may not even be to the country. You understand? Their allegiance, they may be here just to get some money to send back home. They come in here as an American come up team and not really here being a refugee or trying to flee a country that they no longer desire to go back to, or they no longer have any allegiance to. They're coming here for a financial come up and to benefit off of the American programs. That's what they're doing. Immigration is one of the most dangerous. It's right there up at the very top of solely behind domestic terrorism as one of the most dangerous issues facing the native Black American community, those Black folks who are naturally, who are here, who are foundational to the Republic, right? Immigration is and has always been one of the most detrimental aspects of American life. Why do I say that? Right? Because we already know we was dedicated to be a bottom caste. The immigrants who are bottom, oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes who are the bottom caste of their countries of origin, come here so that they can leapfrog us and have a chance at middle class, and have a chance at upper class, and have a chance and the opportunity to be elite in a new country. In a new country, no matter what that cost look like for us. Right? So immigration, no matter if it's at the high end with the HB1 visas and the so-called genius visa recipients sucking up all of the grant money and the opportunities on the high end, or the low class times illegal and undocumented, who take up all of the jobs in the labor sector and the service providing sector that we once used to fulfill. Right. So that's a candle that's being burned at both ends. So instead of the federal government investing into its organic genius citizens, they're importing cheap genius for labor for the low. They're importing cheap genius for the low. Right. When they could be instead of investing into their own citizens, they are importing those individuals that they are desirous of those type of skills. And also on the low end, they're even now, as we speak, trying to award privileges and rights that even we are still fighting for today when we've been citizens since day one. And we have people who are undocumented, have no oath of allegiance to America, and who are in this country. You talk about a grift. This is the ultimate grift. Illegal immigration is the ultimate supreme grift. You understand? And they're coming here eating the fruit that is supposed to be gathered in our yield. So, you know, I want to start with that. Brothers, y'all can chime in on immigration. We can take this thing wherever you want it to go. Let's get in it. Let's get into it.
Somebody, real quick, somebody put in the chat the link to a CNN article about the stimulus, and it says the stimulus proposes giving $700 million to Sudan. So I clicked on the link, and sure enough, I mean, I'm not seeing that part, but Sudan is in the is in this bill. I'm trying to figure it out. Let me see, Sudan. Let's pull this up real quick, because this is exactly what we're talking about. I'm just keywording some of these claims. So we got Sudan right here. I don't know if y'all can see that. Title 17, Sudan claims resolution. Then we have down here at number 8, Sudan, 111 million to remain available until, like, you know, of course we need context, because this could be aid of some form, but I mean, where's the aid to us? Where's the aid to America's descendants of the freedmen in America, those who endured slavery, Jim Crow, et cetera, because this fake safety net called the welfare system is just not cutting it. It is not cutting it at all. So, you know, I just find this extremely interesting. They have a lot of different, I don't understand if this has something to do with the government shutdown. Again, we need some context, but I just thought it was worth noting and pointing out the fact that a relief bill for Americans has, I mean, look at all of these countries. This act may be obligated or expended for assistance for Afghanistan, Bahrain, Burma, Cambodia, Colombia, etc., the Russian Federation, Somalia, South Sudan, Sri Lanka, Sudan, Syria, Uzbekistan, Venezuela. Aren't they going at Venezuela right now for the fake conspiracy theory on Dominion machines? I mean, I don't know what in the world is going on with this. Again, it needs context, but it was worth pointing out.
Absolutely. And what it does outside of context is really puts a magnifying glass on all the things that the federal government is willing to entertain. What and what they're not willing to entertain. We're talking about reparations for our specific group, something that the federal government has complete ability to do. Won't cost them any liability whatsoever. But that all of a sudden, anytime we bring that up, that's an issue. That's a problem. They can invent all kind of excuses why that can't be done. But then every year and in every instance, they can find reasons to give mega gargantuan sums of money to foreign countries. Foreign countries just dumping the money out of the country, right? For some other ulterior motive, right? Has nothing to do with anything that emergency package should be addressing. So that's very interesting. And when we're looking at this thing in regards to what we need to do in our political efforts to get to build meaningful coalitions, right? And I know a lot of people may feel certain kind of ways about what it takes to get this thing over the hill, but we have to have a coalition mindset and a coalition team. There's an element of the American population that feels a lot of the time the same way we do on certain issues. There's a big anti or immigration reform movement going on in America. Right. And sometimes we have to step outside of our normal political thought processes and think of things solely about how it would benefit us. Right. You can't use your captured Democrat mind to think about policies that are going to help our group, because that's going to have you thinking about the wrong thing. So if we look about how do we build coalitions, in my opinion, there's two issues nationally, no matter where you're at, that we can gain a lot of coalition traction with, and that's immigration reform and Second Amendment rights for our group. Those are two things our specific groups, in conjunction with reparations, should be supremely focused on and worried about. A lot of people may disagree, but if you analyze the racial wealth gap and what's all packaged into that, and you see how you will see and identify how immigration is leading to the spread of that wealth gulf and our erasure. So you have to. It's a matter of national interest. It's not about xenophobia. Understand that when you have an immigration position, anyone who brings up xenophobia is not dealing with actual, nationality and citizenship. They're dealing from an emotional position, and your emotions really don't have nothing to do with policy, right? Far as lawful and legal. Understanding that immigration has always been a national issue, and it's always been dependent upon the national interest. So our group is a group that makes up the national interest, and immigration is not in the national interest of the citizens at this point, especially the most vulnerable, the most economically vulnerable citizens are hurting from immigration. So immigration needs to come to a full stop. All undocumented workers need to be returned back to their countries of origin, and we have to get rid of our emotions about it. We can't let the emotional appeal of the dreamers and DACA and all this. Well, we've been here for so long. Well, we've been here since the beginning. So I don't care how long you've been here. It ain't as long as we've been here. You understand? So until we have to prioritize things, not emotionally, but logically and reasonably, as far as politics is concerned. We cannot put an immigrant's plight above our own plight. So America has been so liberal in its immigration policies. We've allowed more immigration than any other country. So it's come to a time where immigration has reached its ceiling. We need to stop immigration altogether and return undocumented individuals, whether they be workers, non-workers, residents, non-residents. If you're undocumented and you're in this country, you need to be returned to your country of origin.
Facts.
There's no reason why any citizen should be in support of undocumented individuals in this country accessing government programs, government funds, and government opportunities. That's a crime against the citizens. So that's where we all need to be when it comes to that. That needs to be a part of the code. Immigration should be over with in 2021 until we get control of this racial wealth gap. Until we get this reparations and reparative justice from the federal government. Immigration is not an issue that any of us should be supporting.
Facts. Absolute facts. I have an article pulled up. Brother Josh, you could jump in after this. I want to kind of go through just a little bit of this, not a lot. The paper itself is damning, and its effect on us as a people is, I mean, it's crazy. When I first started following the ADOS movement, there was a video done by one of the heads of that movement that was talking about, I think it was a representative from out of New York. Can't think of her name at the moment. And she was like, if you scroll down her Twitter feed, everything is nothing but immigration. And I'm the type that you're not just going to tell me anything. I'm going to look it up. So I went on that particular page. Damn, her name is just escaping me right now. And I just scrolled and scrolled and scrolled, and almost every single major policy initiative that she promoted was centered around immigration. So immigration has gotten to the point that it is the political talking point for the left because it opposes what the talking points are on the right. Forget the effects, the negative or deleterious economic effects that it has on what we could call Native Black Americans, right? Forget that. The fact that the right is so against immigration, we have to be for it. The fact that the right is so against abortion, we have to be for it. And what happens with us who represent a politically low IQ people based on obviously our tenure here in this country and being locked out of not just wealth, but education and civic understanding in general, politics, etc., is that we get swept up thinking that this is the way it's supposed to be. Sister Tamara Johnson Shirley, our senator, right? Our Senator Tamara Johnson Shirley said when she was going through Georgia and campaigning that one of the first questions people asked her was, "Are you a Democrat?" Like, that's almost a form of xenophobia if you think about it. So I just want to read this headline in the subheader, and Brother Josh, you could come in behind this. It says effects. This is put out by the National Bureau of Economic Research. It says the effects of immigration on African American employment and incarceration. In 1980 to 2000, the 1980 to 2000 immigration influx, therefore, generally explains about 20 to 60% of the decline in wages, 25% of the decline in employment, and about 10% of the rise in incarceration rates among Blacks with high school education or less. That is damning. Those numbers are absolutely damning. And I don't know if y'all want to go through this, but we have another article as well that we want to pull up. Brother Josh, did you want to speak to that? Okay, Brother Josh is
All right. Yeah. Can you hear me?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. My bad. My screen got frozen for a little bit. Yeah, man. Look, we see that there's the need for people on the left to not necessarily even listen to what the citizens want, right? Not necessarily listen to like the polling or surveys to see what issues matter to citizens, but just to kind of create a way for them to garner more votes, by being in opposition to something, right? If the Republicans are going to be again, and I'm not a Republican, I'm against a whole lot the Republicans are for,
Mm-hmm.
but if the Republicans are going to be for ending illegal immigration, at least that's what they're pushing for, then how could you be in alignment with them if you're supposed to be the opposition party? And I think the issue is like when you look at even immigrants, right? Most immigrants, and this is not anecdotal. I've seen surveys and even exit polls from elections to say that immigration is not an issue, or immigration reform as far as increasing the amount of immigration is not something that most immigrants are even for. Think about it. If you got over here, you look at it as a privilege. You were able to come to the United States of America where you can access opportunity that was not available in your home country, where you can build a life in the United States, which has all the amenities and is an elevated floor, because especially you got ADOS that's holding the floor down, right? You don't want everybody else to come from your country where the culture, the scarcity, the mentality, that you don't want your opportunity lessened. Is if you talk, and that's I can give you anecdotals and I can give you like macro information, and that's not necessarily my opinion. That's from what I've talked to both and from, like I said, research. So that's the position, but yet and still that's the position that they've taken, and that's the hard line they're taking, and it just goes to show you that it's damaging for us to just bow down to that and just get in alignment. Like everything that, just because you vote Democrats doesn't mean you have to agree with everything Democrats do, because you've only given a choice between two parties. But in the meantime, you can hold their feet to the fire and tell them, hell no, we're not for certain policies, and we are for certain policies. And that's what you need to do in the meantime. But I want to chime back in when it's a lot we trying to get into, even more than this particular topic. And but I want to jump back in when we get to the next article. I think I'm about to send you a screenshot of the particular place on the article that I would like to touch on. But go ahead. I'm gonna go back on mute.
All right. Let me, before I see your article you have up, Brother Logic. Let me read this real quick before I close this out, man, because this is this is crazy. Almost everybody knows that in the past 40 years, the real wages and job prospects for low-skilled men, especially low-skilled minority workers, have fallen. And there is evidence, although no consensus, that a rising tide of immigration is partly to blame. So there is evidence, but no consensus. So we know when they say no consensus, that's politics. It says now a new
consensus after this.
Say it again, bro.
I said I'm gonna get to the consensus after this.
Okay, definitely. It says now a new NBER study suggests that immigration has far more reaching consequences than merely depressing wages and lowering employment rates of low-skilled African American males. Its effects also appear to push some would-be workers into crime and later prison. And this is what happens because people, I mean, you know, the number one instinct of survival is self-preservation, right? So we know that if you're looking for a means to eat, you're going to do anything to eat, whether it's sell drugs, whether it's rob people, rob stores, boosting, all of the things that we grew up with in the neighborhood, because there's not enough opportunities there, period. And then when there are opportunities, most of them are low wage anyway. When I drive around my city in Georgia, I'm seeing whole Mexican construction crews, whole Mexican landscaping crews. There's a site that I drive past all the time. It is predominantly Mexican. In Duluth, I believe it's either Duluth or maybe closer to Atlanta. There's a vegan spot that I frequent every once in a blue where I go get my vegan Chinese food from. And there's nothing but, if you want to use the term, Asian stores, Vietnamese, Chinese, Korean in this area. They have a supermarket, an all Chinese supermarket with damn near all Chinese products. All of the workers are Mexican. I'm like, how does that happen? The immigrants come over, hire other immigrants, and then box us out, family. Box us out. It's amazing. It is amazing. So a part of today's discussion is centered around why we have to become more vocal and why we have to, our building first and foremost amongst ourselves has to be rooted in several interests that are against our interests. Number one being immigration. We have to cut immigration off. It is hurting us. It is pushing us away from opportunity while opening up opportunities for other people that come over here. It's backwards. It's just backwards.
Can I add one piece to that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of times we think that us not being vocal in support of a thing is going to equal, like, is it going to express our dissatisfaction with the thing? But that's not going to happen. You're going to have to be vocal against the thing to have for them to see that you are really against it, and not just for them to see that you're really against it, for them to actually have to tailor something to your opposition for. So, like, if we don't say anything and we just say, well, I don't want to be received as xenophobic, so even though I'm against immigration, I don't want to talk about it. Well, then you just acquiesce and you just let them run with the people who are, like, if you don't fight back against people that are fighting for policy that's going to disaffect you. I mean, that's going to, be adverse to you. Then you just acquiesce and you allow them to keep running with it. But if you speak out on it, then they have to do something about you speaking out on it. You're gonna be a thorn in the side of those people that are trying to push that. And I would say, look, like I already said, a lot of immigrants, probably most immigrants, and researchers said most immigrants are not in favor of expanding immigration, being more liberalizing immigration, open borders. They're not in favor of that, because now they have come to America and they're Americans too, and they understand the dangers of that. because they can look back in the country where they're from, and they're none of those. We already said that the United States has one of the most open immigration policies to the extent where 15% of the American population is now not even citizens now, right? So if we understand that, then we can speak with those immigrants who are here and say, hey, you're not for this thing either. So we need you to speak against it too. Just because the Democrat politicians are speaking for it doesn't mean that they're speaking. They're not speaking for you or with you. They're not speaking for a policy that helps you, and it doesn't help us. So, I don't think it's something that for those of you that maybe, walking on eggshells to talk about immigration. I'm just giving you the something so you don't have to do that. Most immigrants are not for the wild immigration policies that's being pushed by the left, as far as opening immigration up, giving rights to citizens that's not giving rights to citizens to people that's not citizens. They're not for bringing more immigrants over here. It's particularly from the high skilled work. Most people that come to America, they're not coming to America to just access the welfare system or access some type of government handouts. They're coming to America usually on trying to level up, get what they couldn't get in their country. They're trying to level up. So if they're opening up for more privileged people to come over, that's going to come over almost immediately leveling up, why would they? And those who already have done that, why would they be in favor for more of that? They're not. So you can speak liberal. You can speak as much as whatever kind of way you want. That's respectful. That's knowledgeable on the subject, without feeling like somebody is going to label you as xenophobic. Because we speaking on the policy and the institution of America, not against an individual or group.
Yeah, let me say this, right? And this is me speaking for me. Logic Supreme is a self-identified xenophobic. I'm scared to death. One thing that what we have to do is be real, right? And stop worrying about what people are going to say about you and what they're going to label you as. I don't care if no one calls Logic a xenophobic, because I'm petrified. You understand? Terrified of anything that leads to the detriment of my survival. Anything that threatens my survival, I'm terrified of it. Immigration, if you understand its impact on our lives, economically, politically, socially, the criminal element immigration brings into the country. If you look at how all of that is connected, you'd be terrified too. And I don't give a damn about nobody calling me no xenophobic. I don't care. So what? And I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time arguing, trying to explain how I'm not xenophobic because somebody done created a word that makes people offended. I ain't never cared about offending nobody. I'm here for truth. I'm here for what's right, and I'm here for what is the best interest of my people. And immigration ain't that. And if somebody want to call me xenophobic, I don't give a damn. You understand? Because immigration is detrimental to the very survival of our group, legal or illegal. I don't care what side of immigration you look at. It's a detriment to our survival. It's a candle that is being burned at both ends. You understand? Now, if we pull up the article, before we get to that article, but pull that article up, please, brother. Before we get to that article, I want to talk about a comment from brother Brian Smith, right? He said 2 comments. He said, well, everyone has to eat, and if the food is here, they'll keep coming. He said the power is the problem, not the people who are hungry. Well, let me address that question like this. There's a such thing as world hunger. Hunger is an issue all over the world, but it's not an American issue. World hunger is not the responsibility of the citizens of the United States of America. And if it becomes an interest, it has to be secondary to its own domestic hunger problems. You understand? So the native Black American has been designed to be the designated hungry in this. We've been the hungriest in this country. You understand? We was emancipated into homelessness and starvation. You understand? So until that justice is addressed, I can't be worried about the world's hungry. And it's not my responsibility, nor is it in the national interest to go about neglecting the domestic hunger to try to solve world hunger and to accommodate world hunger and world poverty when you got domestic poverty issues, when you got domestic homelessness problems to deal with, and you got domestic starvation and hunger problems to deal with. That is not in the national interest. We spent too much time not thinking with the mind of an American who has a national standard he wants to uphold, who has a national allegiance that he's fighting for, who has national survival and a national stake in this country. You put everybody above yourself. I don't care if the next door neighbor's children are hungry. I got to feed my kids first. You understand that? That is equivalent to us trying to feed the stranger before our own blood. We can't do that, and we have to understand the detriment when we even start entertaining those type of political options. We have to be focused and committed. Where's your commitment at? If you're not committed, if you have not obtained this justice for the domestic group, but you want to hop and use resources and energy to help a outside group. See, the problem is you still don't look at yourself and identify as an American. Everything that you do, it's in all your politics and all your body language and the things that you say out your mouth, that you still don't see yourself as a true citizen and as an American, because that's not in the national interest of an American. Now, we can get to this article, right? This article on immigration. First, let me just go ahead. So for reference purposes, it's the impact. This is a commission, right? The impact of illegal immigration on the wages of employment opportunities of Black workers, right? A briefing before the United States Congress on civil rights held in Washington, D.C. This is the briefing report. I'll drop this link in the chat section if anyone wants access to this, right? So I'm going to go and read the first paragraph of the executive summary, right? Just tell you what this thing was about. We're going to go through it. It's a long brief. You can go through it on your own, right? It said, in the midst of public debate over immigration. This ain't no new issue. In the midst of public debate over immigration reform, the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights voted to examine the possible effects of illegal immigration on particularly vulnerable segments of the U.S. working population, specifically low-skilled Black workers. Since April 4th, 2008, right? Since the April 4th, 2008 briefing, the severe economic downturn has affected workers in general, and if unemployment rates are any indication, has had an even more severe impact on low-skilled workers. To help air important aspects of the debate, the commission invited experts who have published and spoken on the issue to weigh the relative effects of factors that influence Black low-skilled worker wages, job gains or losses, and report their conclusions to the commission. The speakers discuss factors that include the economic cost to this particular group, fiscal costs to taxpayers of social services for low-skilled workers, competing skill levels of affected workers, the economic gains to the U.S. economy as a whole from flexible, low-cost labor, and what constitutes a fair comparison between legal and illegal workers and their job opportunities. All right, so now I'm going to scroll down. Let's go look into some of the findings, right? The findings are pretty interesting, right? Findings and recommendations. Number one, there has been a significant rise in U.S. immigration, both legal and illegal, over the past 4 decades. Experts at our briefing testified that immigrant workers now make up approximately 1/7 of the American workforce, and they estimated that illegal workers account for 1/3 of the total immigrants now in the U.S., right? And at the end, it's telling you who's all on the commission. Is number two, illegal immigration to the United States in recent decades has tended to increase the supply of low-skilled, low-wage labor available in the United States labor market, right? 3, about 6 in 10 adult Black males have a high school diploma or less, and Black men are disproportionately employed in the low-skilled labor market. where they are more likely to be in labor competition with immigrants, right? We're talking about the national interest. Tell me why importing more competition on top of all of that racism and oppression we got to deal with makes any type of political sense, right? The average worker with a high school degree or less earns less today, adjusted for inflation, than someone with a similar education earned 35 years ago, right? Got to put all these things in account. Illegal immigration to the United States in recent decades has tended to depress both wages and employment rates for low-skilled American citizens, a disproportionate number of whom are Black men. Expert economic opinions concerning the negative effects range from modest to significant. The panelists that found modest effects overall, nonetheless, found significant effects in industry sectors such as meatpacking and construction. Meatpacking and construction. Understand that, right? If you look into the history of construction work, labor force, and meatpacking, when they say meatpacking, they're talking about just regular butcher shops from mom and pop stores all the way to like the big ones like Purdue, Cargill Meat Solutions, all these different Tyson, all these big companies that Black folks used to get living wages, able to take care of their families and pay their mortgages, used to be getting those type of wages from those type of jobs. Now they're not getting the same wages and not even getting the opportunities even anymore because of illegal immigration. So this report is really just amazing, and it's an eye opener. Number 6 is the last one I'll read, but I'll drop this link into the chat section so that you all can review this report for yourselves. It says, to be sure, factors other than illegal immigration contribute to Black unemployment. The problem cannot be solved without solving the problems of the high school dropout rate, high rates of family instability, and low job retention rates. Moreover, halting illegal immigration is not a panacea even for the problem of depressed wage rates for low-skilled jobs. If upward pressure is brought to bear on low-skilled wages, increasing globalization of the economy may result in some of these jobs simply being exported to other countries. Still, the effect of illegal immigration on the wages of low-skilled workers who are disproportionately minority members is a piece of the puzzle that must be considered by policymakers in formulating sound immigration policies. And at the end of the day, once you annex all of the emotions, what we're talking about is sound immigration policy. What does that look like for us? And once you, again, get rid of all the emotions and you look at the data, you understand the impact on immigration. And see, you can't look at it as saying like not all, you can't look at it, it's not personal. This is not personal. So Brian Smith obviously is a good-hearted human being. He has a lot of compassion, right? There's nothing wrong. Taking care of the citizens first and putting the citizens first. So when we come up with these immigration policies, we're not designing these things under the guise that we have a personal vendetta with these individuals who are coming here. We understand it is what it is, right? You come in here, you trying to come up. I got it. I understand a come up. But at my position is you can't come up on me at my cost. So I'm not personally mad at you. You understand? I just got to do what I got to do to protect me and mine. That's how we have to be thinking about this thing. We have to do what's politically responsible to take care of us and ours. So it's not to say that, not all immigrants are bad or not all immigrants are doing, that has nothing to do with it. It's the policy of immigration that is bad. And it's the policy of immigration and what it allows for. And it's that actually results in the detriment of our group. So self-preservation should lead you to promote sound immigration reform policy to cut off that damage. You understand? It's just damage, period. And we have to look at it like that. It's not personal. It's business. Politics is business. It's put your feelings in your pocket and let's get to these policies, family.
Facts. Now, I want to pull something up. I want to show people how crazy this stuff is. This is crazy. I'll take it a little bit personal. I'm going to keep it official with y'all. Okay. This is an article. I remember when this news first broke. That was published December 3rd, 2018. Right. This is from New York City Patch. Driver's license, patch.com. Driver's licenses for undocumented immigrants on Dems to-do list. It says it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, one lawmaker said of a proposal to help immigrants get behind the wheel. I want to come out of this and I want to go to Wikipedia. Driver's licenses for this is just wild. This is wild. This is wild. Driver's licenses for illegal immigrants in the United States. As of January 2021, 16 U.S. states, the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico issued driver's licenses or permits to some or all of the population residing illegally in the United States. States' laws permitting this are on the books in California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, New Mexico, Nevada, New York, New Jersey, Oregon, Utah, Vermont, and Washington. Key states in here: New York, Illinois, California, right? These are some more key states that we could say is heavy with our people. New York, Illinois, California. If you fall behind on child support in the United States of America, they will suspend your license. Not only do they suspend your license, it is so difficult, and I know from experience, it is so difficult for you to get your license reinstated. You have to jump through hoops. You have to fill out petitions. That takes about 4 months. Then the process is crazy. So what is happening is they're making it so much easier for people who can't. There's a reason why there's a term called illegal immigrants. It's because they came here illegally. They didn't go through the process of becoming a citizen. You see, that we got to talk about this. The people who come from the neighborhoods where I grew up at, this message is not filtering through to them. So we have to talk about this. They need to understand that when they look at the construction site, somebody said it in the chat. I think they said they are in California, and when they look at construction sites, they barely see any black people on the job. I'm seeing it down here in Georgia. We're being boxed out. And if we don't start fighting, see, we don't got to stay stuck on this topic. We don't got to stay. So as you see on Be the Power, we get into various topics, right? But we got to pinpoint this particular issue because it is one of the negative things. It is one of those anchors that you always hear me speak about when I'm using my analogy of anchors versus flotation devices in this crazy sea of commerce or finance or economics that we call the United States of America. So somebody said they're in Georgia, and I brought up Georgia. They have whole little, I guess we could call them Asia towns, Vietnamese faux restaurants, Chinese restaurants, Vietnamese banks, Korean banks. How is it that they have banking systems already established where their money is going to another country, their country of origin, while we don't even have banks? This is what Mercer Baradaran is breaking down in her book, The Color of Money, how racist white America boxed us out. And yet another people can come over here and establish banking systems,
Facts.
and uplift their own people. Their own people can go get loans. I gotta break my neck to find a black bank.
Yep. Pull
And
up the
who's-
comment. Dude said just what you saying. Sleeping Omex said, I know former illegals that took minimum wage money and building fat homes, gated communities in Mexico overlooking the city. Just what Naheem talking about. That's what they do. I saw that, read that while you was saying that, and I'm like, damn, you know what I'm saying? We're not just making this stuff up, family.
Yeah, I mean, so Brother Josh has something. I don't know if Brother Josh is gonna jump on, but he has something that he wants us to read from out of the inbox.
Not, yeah, it's that article you was asking me about.
Okay. Let me pull that up.
Straight up. Vince Jefferson says they can even have 3 DUIs, keep their job, get pulled over for driving under suspensions, and 3 DUIs for ADOS, penitentiary.
Well, we need to look all of that information up. And
I'm sure it differs state from state, but but I know from my own experience in Illinois that they don't get the same penalties, and they don't have to go through the same course of action as we do. They get put in a cell and ICE come pick them up, like, and then they just really get recirculated back into the population, and they do it all over. And like, they're not getting deported for stuff like that, but they're not getting the same stuff we getting, because they out here, they don't even have to have license, they don't lose their jobs, and they not paying taxes to the state or the local governments. It's a real problem.
I'm gonna address your comment in one second, Brian Smith, because you bugging, bro. All right. Los Angeles Times. This was from an article Josh put up. It was from, I believe, 1995, dealing with matter of fact, I have the whole article right here. The headline reads, Column 1, U.S. Blacks, a divided experience. Animosity clouds relations between Caribbean immigrants, native-born African Americans. Competition for jobs, differences in their dealings with whites are at the heart of the split. Now, Brother Josh has a screenshot excerpt from out of this article. So let's read that. It says, what I see as interesting about Black Americans' attitudes toward Colin Powell, for example, is the fact that he has a way of dealing with whites that whites find non-threatening, says Harvard's Waters, who is white. There seems to be less of an expectation among whites that their interpersonal relationships with West Indians will be soured by race. West Indians are at ease around whites, not expecting really awful experiences to happen. So that's key, because, you know, we bring up this term model minority, right? And when we look at, we was talking about this the other day, the bros and I, when we get up in Congress, we come in with that same energy we had in the hood, point blank period, because I don't need and don't care if these people are comfortable or uncomfortable around me. My ancestors were uncomfortable during slavery. My ancestors were uncomfortable after slavery. My ancestors from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, all the way to the 2020s are uncomfortable. We still uncomfortable. You think I care about how these people feel around me? No, we gotta come with a specific type of energy.
That's right.
And an elevated intellect, so these people can know you're not dealing with no dummies first and foremost, and we got street smarts.
That's right.
Like this is a new breed, family, that we talking about raising up. So hold on.
Yeah. More of that energy. I don't know what all this other stuff is about, man.
I don't know. My man.
What is it? Y'all are willing to punch down. I'm not. I'm fighting the power that built the system. And that's your problem. The problem is you are actually fighting the power that built the system, but the real problem is you don't know that you and your ancestors are the power that built the system, and you're fighting against your own self, and you're fighting against your own justice. You think you fighting, you see, you just confirmed what I said earlier. You don't even see yourself as an American. So you don't even know what to defend because you've been tricked. You've been hoodwinked. You've been bamboozled with that poisonous doctrine of anti-Americanism. Anti-Americanism, and you think that you're not American, even though your ancestors built the country, ratified the Constitution, saved it 1,000 times, fought in every war, built capitalism. You don't like the history of slavery and all that, so you want to give up all the other stuff that we baked into the country too. I'm not doing that. Me and my brothers, we're punching down, punching up, punching to the side, punching it.
Elbows, knees.
We doing whatever we got to do.
Off the top rope. We doing all that.
We doing all of that to protect us, ours. And your problem is you don't know what team you're on. So you don't even know that you're running a losing gameplay, a game book, and nothing but failure can come out of any of your pursuits because you don't even know what team you're on. You've been made to think that America is your enemy when America's not your enemy. You just got to know who the true Americans are and who you are.
Facts. Brother Josh, you wanted to speak to that?
Yeah, my main thing with this article was it's from 1995. It's not from 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just going to show you that
they rocked us to sleep.
Like
they rocked.
Yeah, it was we could speak. People were speaking more freely before the political climate changed to where it was taboo to touch on it. Now it's taboo, you know. But in 1995, people could see it and they were talking about it and they understood it, and then
let me say, Josh, real quick,
people kind of got rocked to sleep and forgot about it. But go ahead.
I just want to say this real quick. Immigration has become like LGBTQism, right? And they've intricately woven these issues together on the backs of the plight of our people. And what they did with our people is they separated us along gender lines. They isolated the men and pushed them into the corner, snatched our women, put them in the BIPOC / LGBTQ / category. And so it made it appear as if, and if we look at a lot of the activists and a lot of these politicians who are supposed to be activists, we see that they're fighting for those specific issues, not things as that article I pulled up earlier on the effects of immigration said, where the effects of immigration is having a negative effect on Black American males, whether it's jobs, whether it's wages, and we're witnessing a rise in incarceration. They're not fighting for that. They are, unbeknownst to them, fighting to keep a political party afloat. And they don't see that. And it's our job to pull the wool from over their eyes. I didn't mean to cut in on you, but when you said that, it just hit me.
Nah, you good. You good. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm in the store, so if y'all can't hear me, if it sound kind of muffled, it's because I'm double masking it.
No, you're good, bro.
Yeah, but I mean, look, it's just something that nobody should be. This is an issue we shouldn't be scared to talk about. Nobody should, and it should be an issue that you actually. It shouldn't be a fight that you run from. It shouldn't be a fight that you sit out. It should be a fight that you run to. And you try to take advantage of opportunities to talk about it, because people are going to just allow it to be the de facto, or I should say, the default position that you hold, that in favor of it. If you're quiet, because if that's going to be the party you voted for, and that's the position of the party, then if you don't raise opposition against it, then it's going to be assumed that you're for it. And if it's damaging you, what the hell sense does that make? That's all I want to say on that. But did we want to talk about? Were we going to talk about some of the things that we were talking about right before?
Oh yeah, definitely. Y'all okay. Get in. I'm about to do my little breaking fast thing Y'all get it in right quick. Give me about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Josh, just go in, brother Josh.
Yeah. So we was talking about I seen. Keep your head on your head. We was talking about this. There was an article. I don't know if somebody want to post this article in the chat, but it was an article talking about closing the racial wealth gap. For some reason, it won't let me click on it. But the article was saying how Biden canceling student loans could close the racial wealth gap, and it was a Forbes magazine article. I don't know. I for some reason it won't let me access the article, but yeah. So I was trying to see if one of y'all could pull it up to read it.
What is the article?
The one that's in our chat that says not the StreamYard chat, but the BTP chat. It was talking about Biden plans to cancel student loans, and that can close the racial wealth gap.
Okay, hold on. Let's pull that up. Because that
you just got to scroll up a little bit. It's up there.
Is it from Twitter?
No, it's in the BTP chat.
No. I mean, is the link from Twitter?
It's from Forbes.
It's from Forbes because I see something closing the racial wealth. Okay, it was a tweet. So
no.
Okay. No, I got it.
The Forbes joint.
I got it. Hold on.
I would share, but I'm on my phone, so I can't. It won't let me do it.
All right, so we have this pulled up. Biden canceling student loans could close the racial wealth gap. This is stupid, man. But what was your breakdown on this, bro? All right, I think Josh. All right, I'm going to read until Josh comes back on. President-elect Joe Biden wants to cancel $10,000 in student loan debt for all borrowers and the rest of the debt for those who.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay.
All right, well, I'm gonna just finish reading this chapter, and then you just come in. All right, President-elect Joe Biden wants to cancel $10,000 in student loan debt for all borrowers and the rest of the debt for those who attend public colleges or historically Black colleges and universities, earning less than $125,000 a year. The burden of student loan debt is worsening with inequality and continues the debt disparity among Black college students. It's no secret that the cost of college is climbing faster than American wages and the inflation rate, 8 times faster to be exact. So getting rid of this debt could finally move the needle on closing the racial wealth gap. Now, Brother Joe, let me say this real quick. Which Black Americans, right? Because a majority, it seems like a majority of the graduates coming out of a lot of these universities are Black immigrants. And I would have to look on some numbers on that. I believe that's something that I seen a couple months back. Don't quote me exactly on that. Either way, what this does is try to put a Band-Aid over a gaping wound, a wound that's gushing with blood. They're trying to put a Band-Aid.
I see. What are you doing, man?
Yeah, they're trying to put a Band-Aid over a gaping wound because this ignores the poor. This ignores the people that make up the prison population, right? Because there's a reason why they get to the prison in the first place, due to economic insecurity leading to crime. I mean, I just went through an article earlier about one of the reasons why one of the reasons why immigration specifically hurts Black Americans, right? Wages, et cetera, et cetera. Now, add in all of the other factors, right? Legacy racism, I guess we could call it that, legacy racism. You add that stuff in, and we see that canceling student loan debt is just absolutely crazy. Insofar as closing the racial wealth gap. Brother Logic, you or Josh, y'all want to?
Yeah. Yo, yeah. So, like, man, we looked at this thing earlier, and this is just outrageous. You understand? So you have Corey Hale took it upon herself to write this article. I haven't looked at whatever this initiative is in great detail to see if in the actual order or in the actual policy, it's saying that it's targeted to limit the racial wealth gap. I don't know. Even if it is, there's still a major issue. There's a major issue with that, and we'll beat that up too. But I'm thinking that this individual, this Corey Hale, has just taken upon themselves to just produce this language and invent this type of thinking. Biden cancels student loans could close the racial wealth gap. And in this article, you won't see any evidence of any gap closure. You understand? Like eliminating debt, I'm not against that. But when you try to frame it and say that it's going to contribute to closing the racial wealth gap, that's just wrong. It's inaccurate and it's just not true. So we cannot allow this type of misinformation to be put out there because they want to continue to present these other ideas when we know that there's only one thing that can close the racial wealth gap, and that is pure reparations for the Native Black Americans, the people, the descendants of American slavery. And without that, right, the day one Black citizens in this country. Without that, the closing of the racial wealth gap is too large of an undertaking for any loan forgiveness, debt forgiveness, any type of piecemeal program to fulfill. It's a invoice that must be filed with the United States government, specifically Congress. That's it, and that's all. A student loan debt cannot close the racial wealth gap. You must understand that. And it's criminal for them to even try to pass this off. What we got, we say student loan debt widens racial wealth gap by percent, Reporter News, December 3rd, 2020. So don't be fooled by this type of stuff, man. This is just more propaganda and misinformation, and we will never look at this. But who are they really talking to, right? I think they know that we're intelligent enough to understand that that's not closing the racial wealth gap. So who are they actually talking to? They're talking to that other element of American life that we would desperately need to get a pure reparations project enacted, right? So you have a degree of national interest, that's the national support that needs to be done. So what these type of articles, especially written in blackface by a black pen, what it does is kind of hurts the reparations efforts, because they're like, well, you said the racial wealth gap was designed. I mean, the reparations program is designed to eliminate or to close the racial wealth gap, or eliminate, right? And close it at the mean. But what about this? The student loan debt forgiveness plan by Joe Biden. They said that would close the racial wealth gap, right? So when we see that, we have to understand they're not talking to us. They're talking to the group that is undereducated on this particular issue and does not understand actually what's going on. And student loan, right? We can talk about student loans all day. Student loans on the federal level should actually be eliminated altogether, period. It's a criminal thing that the government is actually doing with having interest-bearing loans that they're handing out to its own citizens. The government's job is to make an investment into the country, to work on the general welfare and the general good, right? And the public welfare, right? The public good and the general welfare. However the saying goes, the government's job is to work on behalf of the people, the citizenry, right? So any effort to make the citizens better should not come with profit margins, should not come with interest on top of it. It should all be granted And it should not be looked at as welfare. It should be looked at as a federal investment into the country. That could only help the country, right? So the fact that the government is even issuing out loans to be paid back with interest in the first place should automatically get looked at a certain way and should automatically have all the pushback and all of the opposition from all the citizens that are here anyway, because it's just wrong altogether, the way that thing is even set up. So to say that we're going to eliminate debt for a small group of people, that could close the racial wealth gap, is just dishonest and disrespectful. So
Yeah. So it was I mean, if we just think about it, right? If you think about it, just think about it in terms of just the numbers. I'm more a little analytical, right? So if we do the numbers, if only a small percentage, if we have the highest disparity of any group as far as college degrees, and other groups have high rates of college degree, and therefore they probably got some student loan debt. We're getting the least benefit from that. But it's another way of using us as the face of some type of policy that we're going to get the lowest amount of benefit from anybody for.
Right.
So let's take Black Lives Matter, which should be a better a better phrase for Black Lives Matter would probably be LGBTQ power. Maybe we should call that's a better. I mean, because when you look at what the energy and what the money and the clout, that everything that comes from politically, what came about from that, we see that was the law that really got influenced. It wasn't nothing to really material that was improved for Black folks through that advocacy and through the movement nationally. And there's a whole lot of problems with that. So when I look at this now, moving on to, well, we need to get this class-based policy that's going to help everybody else. Y'all can get the least benefit, but we got to make y'all the face of it, because that's how you justify doing it, because it's going to help. So here's another part, right? If they say that canceling student loan debt could close the racial wealth gap, they didn't say that they didn't say that it could diminish some of the gap. Like, so let me ask y'all this: if I am sitting on the couch, right? Let's say you're sitting on the couch and you tell your kid, "Hey, go close the door." So your kid gets up, and let's say the door is open 40 inches, right? And the kid closes it, and he just pushes it 2 inches. So now it's, instead of being 40 inches from closing, it's actually 38 inches from being closed. Is you gonna tell your kid thank you for closing the door, or are you gonna tell him, no, I said close the door?
Exactly.
No, he didn't close the door. So and that's the same way if you talk about canceling student loan debt. Like, how can that close the racial wealth gap when you didn't take the amount of wealth that Black Americans have and make it the same amount of wealth that white Americans have? You can't tell me by eliminating the student loan debt of a few Black folks and eliminating student loan debt for even more other groups that we closing especially white folks. You can't tell me that's going to close the racial wealth gap. The numbers just don't add up. And not only that, we advocate that the principle, like the baseline issue or thing that we're looking for as far as reparations is closing the racial wealth gap. Like, that has to be a minimum. So essentially, you're saying if you eliminate student loan debt, it can close the racial wealth gap. So if you eliminate student loan debt, then you don't need reparations. And that statement, that's kind of what they're saying. That's the sideways way of saying it, and that's just ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. You can't. You can't let them make that claim. And now I will say this to the person who wrote the article. You know, 2 or 3 years ago, 3, 4 years ago, I don't know, especially before 2020 and before 2019, before ADOS, you could have maybe gotten away with we saying, well, you don't know enough. But after all the attention that it's gotten, after it became a national issue, after it reached the heightened stage of the discussion, after the people who have talked about it have been in the news media and highlighted, and you're writing for a reputable news publication, you can't use the excuse that you don't know enough, because you at least knew enough that you knew how to Google, and you know you didn't see Sandy Darity's name, and you know you didn't see something about ADOS, you know you didn't see it. I mean, a whole lot of people didn't talk about this. You could have done a simple search and seen like, nah, that this ain't right. This is extremely flawed, and it's problematic to say this. And you should have known better that this is countering our justice claim, and you should have known better to write that. So I have to say that this is willful, which is way worse. It's way worse. So I mean, somebody writing this should have to account for that.
There's an interesting comment. Shiz, I believe, says there is no single check or program realistically coming from the government that will magically close the racial wealth gap. So you're right, and and I think you're not, right and exact though, right? So there is no single check, right? That's not a thing. It's not a check that can close the racial wealth gap, because a check is just monetary. Wealth is it's ownership versus things that you owe. Ownership. It's ownership weighed against your ownership, right? Your assets versus your liabilities. The things that you own versus the things that you owe. That's how we come up with, how to evaluate and look at someone's wealth position, right? What do they own? Not how much money do they have? That liquid is a factor, but it's not the sole determinator of what wealth is and what it looks like, right? So, but there is a program that can realistically, a government program that can realistically close the racial wealth gap, not magically, but through politics, right? That's how the game of government is played, through politics, through policy, through a reasonable time objective, right? If the program is designed to close the racial wealth gap, it's going to do what it was designed to do. So it's not magic. It just takes subject matter experts, people with know-how and experience, to design a program that can close that. And great work about how to do that and get that done has already been done by those who know best, right? So closing the racial wealth gap at the mean and not the median is an absolute realistic political option for the citizens to get behind, that the federal government can execute. So there's no need to think it's magical, and when it's not, it's political. So just understand that there's a program can be designed on the federal level that can provide the infusion of capital, create the institutions and programs and all other set-asides that can absolutely 100% realistically close the racial wealth gap. You have to get there in your mentality, brother or sister, whoever that is.
Yeah, just to echo what you're saying, eliminating debt is not a substitute for providing assets, because eliminating debt is not, if you can't will a college degree. You can't will, you can't will, and let's keep in mind that a lot of people didn't even finish school. So there's a lot of people that got debt that ain't got no degree. You can't will a partial degree either. And that's what it does, is that gives the individual the ability to use the knowledge that they gain to put it in the marketplace, right? And get compensated for it. But that is not a substitute for land. And we have already established that in today's world, today's world economy, wealth is not generated from labor. Like you can't work your way to be able to catch back up. So the idea that we'll be able to just eliminate student loan debt and then you'll be able to close the asset gap on your own, that's just straight preposterous. And that's not nowhere close to, like, the messaging should nowhere close to be implying that that's something that we will be down for. And you shouldn't use they should just take the racial wealth gap, just take our people out of it altogether. Don't make us the face of this. Build it up on your own. Stand on your own. Lift yourself up by your own bootstraps in the politics.
Lift them political bootstraps up. Pull yourself up by your political. That's funny, but so what we got to understand is this too, right? And I understand what this individual Shiz is saying. I don't know if this is a ADOS person, if this is I don't know who this person is, right? He or she, right? Whatever they may be. But what they're saying is, it's like they don't understand their own power and their own position. And people have made this mistake on and off intermittently throughout our history, thinking that we don't have power. See, being in power and having power is two different things. So because we're not in, she said, I don't have the position of power to do this, that, and the third, right? But you do have power. And it's how you use the power that you do have to bring about the desired effect. So you have power to provide certain consequences to those who are in the positions of power to bring about that desired effect. And it's about how you operate on your end that brings about those consequences. Political consequences is a great way to segue into the other. We talked about the meat. Now we have to talk about the potatoes, right? So there's two supreme issues that's has to be at the forefront of all of our political conversations. And that's the dangerous implications and impact of immigration, legal and illegal, on our group, and the importance of Second Amendment rights. What are we talking about? We're talking about the right to bear arms and the right to defend yourself. We have been, as a specific group in this country, the most victimized group. As a family, we've been the most victimized family, the most terrorized family, the most hunted family, the most killed and hung and lynched family in the history of America. No family in our group should be having any type of anti-Second Amendment mindset or approach. It's insane for a group who comes from the history and the lineage and the background historically that we come from to have any kind of moderate gun policy and gun position. We should want to protect ourselves more so than any other group in America, because we're the ones under attack more than any other group in America. And when you just let me know, there's a real important mind that we don't rehash enough. We don't recall enough. We don't go and use enough, right? And I'm talking about Huey P. Newton and the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. We do not go to them. And I don't really understand why, right? People bring up Martin, they bring up Malcolm, they quote them all the time, and that's great. But why do we miss this genius political operator in Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seals? This example that we have of bringing politics, coalition building, all of that together. Do for selferism, they brought all of it together because they fed the community with their social programs. They provided their own free healthcare programs, right? They done so much for the community. They are the champions of every different ideology that we promote today separately. They taught financial literacy. They did police their own communities. They did all of that stuff that we all talk about, but we don't reference them enough. We don't analyze them enough and then build on from their mistakes and grow from their successes. But I think am I sharing it? But I want you to hear, bear with us I want y'all to listen to this great mind and what he has to say about the way our Second Amendment ideology, should sound like, right? And just listen to this. Have some patience and check this out.
I would like to make a statement concerning guns in light of the assassination of Kennedy. First of all, our position on guns and violence in general, on war in general, is one of being against war and being against violence. And this is not a changed position. If it seems in contradiction to some of my earlier statements, simply because people have not understood what I was saying in the first place. That I say that violence, war, and guns are a thing that the Black Panther Party would like to see gotten rid of. And we absolutely are against people killing each other and committing violence on each other. But also, we recognize that we don't advocate that the oppressed people, that the victims leave themselves subject to the aggressions of the criminal. And these are the people who are forcing us to a state of subjugation and keeping us in a state of slavery. And this is the people all over the world. For instance, I'm sure the Vietnamese people would like very much for this government to give up its guns, because that would mean that the military would disarm itself and stop killing little Vietnamese children and women and destroying them. I think I stated earlier that the motto of the Panther is that we're advocates of the abolition of war. We do not want war, but war can only be abolished through war. And in order to get rid of the gun, we find it necessary.
We having some issues with the audio right now, I believe. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Do you hear the audio from
No,
the
I
video?
can't hear the audio.
We are going to change it by any means necessary.
I can hear it now.
Therefore, that in the final analysis, that we would like for total disarmament to exist, but first we would have to disarm the cause of the disturbance. And the cause of the disturbance is U.S. imperialism and the violence that the violence that is in this country is only a reflection of the violent nature of the country in the first place. You don't expect to go to someone else's home and disturb things and act violently and expect for your home to stay in a state of peace and tranquility. The first thing you have to do is stop your actions against other people, and then violence will stop. But I think this country is so hung up on violence and ruled by force, the club, and the gun, until it'll be very difficult for them to even pass legislation to get rid of guns. And if they do pass legislation to get rid of guns, that the Black Panther Party is going to keep an eye on who maintains his guns. If they want to disarm people, I would say first start disarming the vicious police force that occupy our communities throughout the country, where we die, we're brutalized each day, and we're shot down in the street. Our little kids are shot down in the street by criminals with guns under the disguise, going under the facade of peace officers. So in the final analysis, that we stand for total disarmament, and this is not to exclude anyone. If you're going to disarm, then disarm the police, start with the police and end up with the military. And then that we would advocate that all other countries disarm itself and violence will stop. because then the people will have more of a chance of a redress of grievance, because the racists and the imperialists will not be protected by his guns. That is the only thing that protects him is guns. So the violence that America inflicts throughout the world is now coming home to roost, as Malcolm said before his death. That when Kennedy's brother was killed, he made the statement that the chickens have come home to roost. And I think that this is an appropriate statement at this time, that the chickens have come home to roost.
All right. So, brother Huey P, he said a lot. Was there a break? There was a break there, yeah?
Yeah, there was a little break in there. The audio the internet connection seemed to have got spotty.
Okay. Well, so basically the brother was talking about, and which is still a big issue today and has been every year, every year after the other year. Gun control, all of that, right? If y'all don't remember, before COVID, there was a mass shooting almost every day in this country. And gun control was the big political hot topic. Gun control, gun control, gun control. Right. So Huey P. Newton, the Black Panther Party of Self-Defense, had a political position. Right. If you don't understand, this is a political organization who was very politically savvy. They were the most specific group. When you talk about being having specificity, they had that. The 10-point program and platform was very specific. They were the most well-organized group, and their political positions were strong. So when we talk about the Second Amendment, why is it important? And why is immigration important? Because those are the two issues that we can coalition build around, right? We can coalition build around the Second Amendment because that serves our interests, and it's already something that we can find mutual interest in, that they already have that investment in there. There's political capital already there. So when you're talking about something you can work with on, where can we meet at? I'm talking about politics now, right? Exchange for things, right? When we talk about building coalitions and things that we can work with people on, the biggest two issues, and the third one I'll introduce after I say this, is the issue of immigration. Now, you might not like the people that you may coalition build with, but this is business. Again, it's not personal. This is not friend building. It's coalition building. So we're not trying to make friends. We're trying to find the issues that we have mutual interest in order to form a political alliance, right? So now, using the issue of immigration and the Second Amendment, first you have to understand that we talked about how the impact of immigration hurts our survival. The Second Amendment, and any type, and in this day and time, any type of Second Amendment reform that doesn't start with I love the way Huey P. Newton said it. He said, if you're going to start immigration reform, you have to start it with the most violent weapon abusers, and that's the American police. Take the guns away from them. He said, and then end with the military who oppress the world with their guns. What he was doing was giving them a non-option. He knows that's not going to happen. Well, what he was doing was protecting his own ability to defend himself by giving such an example that he knows that they're not going to ever entertain. They're not going to take the weapons away from the police nor the military. So thus, he's protecting his own position by invoking their necessity to have them. So if it's a need for you to have it, you should understand my need to have it, right? And that's where the people we all need to be at in that moment. It's about survival. It's not that I don't like Mexicans or I don't like these individuals from these other places. It's that it's a matter of survival right now. And it's not that I just have to have guns and I'm some gun nut, but understanding my history and understanding my present and what I want from my future, I have to be a pro-gun family. I have to be a pro-gun father. I have to have a pro-gun wife, My children have to be familiar with weapons. And this is a dangerous world that we live in on all fronts. And if the more ways you can defend yourself, the safer you are, and the more you can increase your own survival. So why would I be for any type of weapon reform if it does not first target the people who are the most violent against me? That's how your politics have to be shaped. That's how you have to look at it. If you're going to talk about taking weapons away, you're not going to start with me. You're not going to start with the victim, someone who's been the victim of the most gun violence on behalf of the rest of America. You're not going to start with me, right? So if you're going to start, I would only advocate you starting with the most oppressive gun user and the gun abuser. So if we're not going to start there, we're not going to even entertain that. That's a political code that we all have to be by. We all have to have the same position on immigration, the same understanding that immigration is a detriment to us. You understand? On the high end and the low end, we have reached the salary cap on immigration. We just need a full stop on it. It don't matter who don't like it. We have to understand that if you call us xenophobic, you might actually be accurate. I'm scared to death of anything that threatens my survival. And then when we get to the Second Amendment rights, we have to understand self-defense is at the utmost importance in our day-to-day survival to even get political agendas met. And we all got to be on the same page in that regard.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I spoke about this on the last live stream about how me and Brother Logic used to debate all the time about assault rifles. I'm 100% for guns, but you know, his main argument was they got them. They got them. So it's hard to fight against that logic right there, man. Hence, my brother Logic. we got a question in the chat. Brother Naheem and Brother Logic, what's your stance on this Senate race in Georgia? I mean, let me start it off by saying this. I don't necessarily have a stance. If I had my way, it'd be Sister Tamara Johnson Shirley in this runoff right now. But, you know, didn't go my way or the way of BTP or the many other supporters and over 106,000 supporters of the sister in Georgia. But if and this is me speaking, it's my opinion, if the Democrats do take the House, because we know that Kamala represents the tiebreaker if there's a tie in the Senate. If they take the Senate, I should say, if the Democrats take the Senate, I believe that our advocacy should be so much louder. I mean, like, that would be a time for everybody to put all petty differences to the side and move with the singular voice based on whatever the policy prescriptions we've been pushing for the past few years, with reparations at the head. It should be so loud that the people that we try to reach in the streets will hear it. So that by the time 2024 comes around, or heck, even 2022, right? By the time 2022 to 2024 comes around, the people that's on the streets that are not necessarily registered to vote will say, you know what? I'm feeling that. And this message has to be given to them in a way, you know, they say as a young 5%er, one of the little mantras we had was you can't feed meat to a baby lest it choke, and in some cases die. So what you have to do is feed it milk. And we have to, at some point, take our message, never dumb the message down, never ever dumb the message down, but in certain aspects, break it down in simpler terms so that the people that don't understand pie charts and graphs and data and percentiles and quintiles and et cetera, can understand what the heck we're talking about. This is how we could benefit if these two get in office. Either way, I believe that we benefit, because if they don't get in, we still gonna push. But for me, and this is just my view, it gives us a greater incentive to say, we voted y'all in, y'all have to do this for us, and become louder and louder. And like we said, we want to be, BTP want to be on the Breakfast Club. BTP want to be in those BET political ciphers. We want to be on the Revolt TV panels, et cetera, et cetera. We want to be everywhere where our voices, which represents the voices of the people in large part, because we're pushing for something in reparations that will basically save not only our lives in the present, but the lives of our future generations. So we have to have our voices amplified in that regard. So if, and this is my feelings about it, these two, Warnock and Ossoff, become the senators out of the state of Georgia, then I see it as an opportunity for us to become even more louder and even more forceful. So much so that the political consequence of them not doing anything will be so far reaching into the future that they'll have no choice but to concede to our demands if they want our votes. What's your take on it, Brother Logic?
Yeah, so man, outstanding, bro. And my thoughts on the Georgia election is, if it's not, Tamara Johnson Shealy, then I don't know what you would be voting for. Brother Naheem brought in excellent logic on those of you who would go that way, on why you would do so, and what would be, what would make sense in that way of going. Ultimately, I feel that, you should vote your conscience, but also vote your interest, and so if it's in your interest, you should vote for it. So Warnock and Loeffler, right? Both of them are not in our interest.
No, Warnock and Ossoff. Unless you mean who they're.
I'm specific.
Okay. My bad.
Between Warnock and Loeffler, right?
Okay.
We can talk about Ossoff too, but specifically Warnock, right? Mm-hmm. and Loeffler, right? You're gonna get basically a look. If you talk about the danger, right? Both of them are dangerous. To have either one of them is a dangerous thing, and you really are asking yourself, right? Should I vote for the person that has the best chance of deceiving me, or someone that I know is an enemy, or allowing my enemy to win? That is a conundrum. How do you say, you know what? Because isn't the person that has the best chance of deceiving you oftentimes your friend, your family, the closest person to you? So you look at Warnock like that, and you want to vote for him. He's a Democrat. He's a brother. He's from Savannah. But isn't that the person who has the greatest ability to deceive you? Wouldn't you be letting your guard down the most for an individual like that, who can talk the talk, sounds like you, looks like you? But if you go deep into his platform, which most folks don't do, most voters are surface deep. They don't look at somebody's political agenda. And we've talked about Warnock's political agenda right here on this platform. And what it is a coward's agenda. It's a party line agenda. He wants to do everything for everyone but his own people. And he knows that our people need the help. He knows it. But what he's doing is saying that his career as a senator, his personal career trajectory is greater and more important than the future of our group. And so I would never vote for him, and no matter what the situation may be, because I would rather have someone that I'm doing politics with that is upfront and that I know is my enemy, so that I stay sharp and I stay focused on how I need to behave and deal with this individual, into thinking that I have an ally working on my behalf when really I've entrusted my enemy with my political future. So that's my position on that.
Definitely. All right, we at an hour, coming up on an hour and 45 minutes. You know, this was a little pop-up discussion. It got, you know, it got to discussing based on, it'd be so funny sometimes we be having these crazy powerful conversations. We like, let's go live. And then sometimes we don't even like get into, you know, a lot of the stuff that we in depth the way that we talk about it on, you know, in our little group among each other. And that happens sometimes, but we were still able to basically hit on a lot of the things that we touched on and during our conversation earlier. It was a powerful conversation, man, from immigration to student loans to class-based politics versus race-based politics, and how to form the proper coalition. And like, it's going to take us to unblur those lines, right? We have people trying to color outside of the lines, thinking that the picture still looks nice when it doesn't. And we have to redefine those lines and make sure that the politicians are coloring inside the lines on the issues of race and the issues of class, so that they will not get blurred. Because when they blur the lines, one of the things that they do is what we just witnessed in this past election. They get to isolate us from our women, pull our women into their web, to the point where everybody is looking down on our men. And that cannot happen if we are to succeed. We as men were the freedom fighters. It was us. Like, if we wanted to take it as a male versus female type thing, which I never ever want to do. I hope nobody ever gets that misconstrued, because some people do. But it was the men that fought in the Civil War. It was the men that fought in the Civil War. It was their fighting, their skill, their hope that in winning this war, our people will be set free. Our people will be broken from the bondages of slavery, right? So, you know, if we were to go there, and what we need today is an understanding of that. And we could also attribute a lot of that sentiment to the anti-American feeling that a lot of organizations have pumped over the past several decades. You know, we talked about this last night with Brother Ankh coming on Be the Power. You know, we had a conversation about that. A lot of that anti-American sentiment really just set us backwards. You know, it really did. So we feel that it's time to cut all of that stuff out. But it's going to take us coming together. We're at BTP, let me say we're raw. We going to keep it official. We might not do it the way that you want it done, but rest assured it's going to get done. And when it's all said and done, the results is what matters. Nothing else really matters. Nothing else really matters. So, you know, we want to put that out there. We gonna be on Clubhouse real soon. I can't wait. I'm waiting for my iPad now. It's taking forever to get here, but we will be becoming more active on Clubhouse as well. BTP, we invading all of the spaces, man. We got to do it. Peace, Sister Sin. I see you in the group, Sister Cynthia, BTP Mod. So make sure, if y'all didn't hit the like button, hit the like button, family. If you would like to contribute to the platform, you can use the super chat. You could cash app us at $ be the power. You can become a Patreon member. Remember, the mantra to our platform is don't just fight the power, become the power, and then and only then will you have the power to make a change. And with that, I say peace.